80% of the communication comes from what they say. And maybe 20% will come off what they see. This is a big reason for miscommunication. A large contributor to a problem is miscommunication. Now, who is in charge of the communication? We gotta cover this. Who's in charge of communication? Because there's got to be two people, right? There's two people, and with those two people, there is communication that goes on between them. Who do we point at as the one who is in charge? They both are talking, right? Both people talk, but who is it that actually is the one who determines the clarity of the conversation? All right. This is where it gets a little messy. For example, I'm going to choose that the listener is the one in charge. So I'm going to take this off because now this is the listener. Maybe I have an ear. Let me see if I have an ear. That'd be kind of funny. Oh, I do have an ear. I'm going to use an ear instead of a star. So this is the listener. And I've never used the ear before, but we're going to use, that's an ear if you're wondering what that is. So this is the communicator. This is the one who's, sorry, not the communicator. This is the one who's talking. This is the one who's listening. That when you look at that by itself, that is definitely an ear, but kind of strange. Okay. So here's what's going on. And here's something we need to consider, that during conversation, one person is talking, the other person is listening. If there is miscommunication, who detects it first? It would be the listener, right? The listener would have to say to the one who's talking, saying, you don't make sense, or I don't understand what you're saying. And so this person would be the one to cause the one talking to go back and repeat what it is that they're saying, or to say it in another way. So the person who's in charge of clarity is the one who's listening. Now, this is the fascinating part, though. Here's the fascinating part. If this person says, I don't understand what you're saying, what I've seen happen is that this person gets mad at the listener. Like they're supposed to just understand whatever this person says, whatever they say. So what I've seen happen over the years of doing training classes is that the one who's speaking has an expectation that they are very clear and that they make sense in what they're saying, so that the listener doesn't feel like they can question what they're saying or ask for clarification. So what I'm getting to is this: miscommunication is happening more and more and more in the world today because the listener won't speak up and say, hey, you don't make sense. And we as listeners are not developing our listening skills. We're not. We are turning towards our cell phones. We're turning towards our computers. We're turning towards texts and emails and voicemail messages. We're turning to that to communicate, and we are losing our ability to communicate person to person. We're losing it. So this miscommunication piece is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse as a society. So I'm going to encourage you to become a better listener with your ears and with your eyes, because it's eyes that see body language. It's your ears that hear the words of what people say. So the world is heading towards a very, 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 very big problem of person-to-person communication. It's one of the reasons why we have couples who are struggling massively, is because they can't be in the same room and actually communicate. The only way they communicate is if they're texting. Where bosses and employees, or team leaders and employees, they try to talk on a call or they try to hold a meeting and they can't communicate because they really are terrible at listening. That's the problem. And then the people who are speaking don't know how to read their body language to know when to shut up and when to repeat what they just said. So both people are not paying attention to what's going on in the communication. And so what we're going to see is that we're going to see a big increase in miscommunication and people having issues with each other. That's why I think this is a really important topic for us to talk about, paying attention and reading people's body language. So what we're all looking for is we're all looking for clarity. We're all looking for clarity to where we can say, hey, what did you say? Or we could say, I'm confused. I need help. Or I don't understand. Or to be able to say, that's not what you said. Or to be able to say, I know what you're saying. I know you are saying that, but it doesn't make sense. Or for us to say, I don't know if I trust you because there's something in your body language that says I shouldn't trust you. Something just feels weird about this conversation. This would be things that the listener would say. We as listeners have to speak up when things don't make sense, or we're not going to get clarity. We're just not. It's not going to happen. So body language is a message that is seen, but not heard. It's something that we listen to with our eyes. For example, check this guy out. Let's say this is the guy's posture, and the guy says, I'm open to what you are saying. Well, our eyes say he's not open, but he just said that he's open. So that doesn't make sense. And if I just go off what this guy says, I could start talking, but I don't know if he's listening or not. So me as the listener, me as a person in the conversation, I'm going to have to speak up and say, hey, I know you say you're open, but are you sure? Are you really listening? I need to clarify because his body language and what he says just doesn't match. What about this? I'm fine. Nothing is wrong. But I look at her and it's like, no, something's wrong. So if I go off what she said, I could step into a messy conversation and miss something. If I go off what he said, we're most likely going to have miscommunication because I don't think he's open. I don't think he's listening. And so if I don't do something when I see that what they said and how they look doesn't match, if I don't say something, I'm going to actually cause a problem here. So we as people, what we get to do is when we see these discrepancies, when we see things that don't quite match, we get to speak up and find out, okay, I know you say you're fine, but I think you're not fine. Because I need to find out because the way she looks, something's wrong. So me as a better communicator means I need to pay attention and give credit to the way the person is portraying or showing the messages that they're showing. Because her message, obviously, her message says something's not right, even though she said this. And I've got to say something about it. That's what we get to do as communicators, is to call out, not call out, but literally say things that will help us clarify what's going on in the conversation. Okay, so body language shows up in a lot of different ways. every time somebody communicates, there's these little gestures that they do with their eyes, their hands, their arms, their lips, their face, their everything. Everything they're doing communicates to us.